Two men were charged with planning an attack on Democrats to spark a movement. And so this was coming after Trump's loss of the election. And so there is a lot of people that are still angry, and that anger is coming out in a whole lot of ways. So this is through BuzzFeed. So two men were charged with planning an attack on Democrats to spark a movement after Trump lost the election. And so this is what you see here. White privilege card trumps everything. Okay, you see all of this. And so two California men who authorities say amassed an arsenal of guns and pipe bombs were indicted Thursday over alleged plans to attack targets associated with Democrats. And so Ian Benjamin Rogers, 45 years old, of Napa, and Jared Copland, 37 years old, of Vallejo, were charged in a federal court with conspiracy to destroy the Democratic headquarters in Sacramento with incendiary devices. So their targets allegedly also included the governor's mansion and the San Francisco offices of Twitter and Facebook. And so the men started planning attacks after former President Donald Trump lost the 2020 election by reaching out to an anti-government militia for help. Investigators say in an incident unsealed Thursday. And so authorities believe both men are connected to the Three Percenters, a far-right militant group whose members were involved in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. So according to the detention memo, okay, for Copeland, the men also reached out for help from Proud Boys as well. So the violent neo-fascist group, also with several members charged in the Capitol riot and attack. So Rogers and Copeland apparently understood that they would be considered domestic terrorists. And so for carrying out the attacks according to the government documents that are filed in the case. But they hope that the attacks would spark a movement to overthrow the U.S. government. And so in the detention memo, investigators say that the men talked about writing a manifesto, which appears they never did, to explain their purposes. And so their planning continued even after January 6th, with Rogers telling Copeland over an encrypted message app on January the 11th, "I want to blow up Democrat buildings bad," the indictment says. And so that's what's in the indictment. So while the case is not directly linked to the Capitol insurrection and highlights the federal law enforcement drive in wake of the attack to combat domestic violent extremism, and the issue that the President Joe Biden and Justice Department and the Justice Department of Homeland Security have made this a top priority, because this, outside of the article, I'm saying this is what's going on. And so FBI Special Agent in Charge Craig Fair said in a statement Thursday the agency's highest priority has remained preventing terrorist attacks before they occur, including homegrown plots from domestic violent extremists. And that is what is on the rise. And so Rogers, whose social media shows him to be an enthusiastic Trump supporter, has been in custody since his arrest on January the 15th and is being held on $5 million bail. And so FBI arrested Copeland in Sacramento on Wednesday. So a search of Rogers' home in January uncovered between 45 to 50 firearms, including at least 3 fully automatics weapons, thousands of rounds of ammunition as well included, and 5 pipe bombs that were fully operational, investigators say. And so they also discovered 3% stickers with white privilege cards attached. And so the FBI, it says here, this is by Christopher Miller. He's basically reiterating what I just said, that Ian Rogers, who is 44, an extremist Trump supporter, made 5 pipe bombs that were fully operational and was intent on attacking the Democrats to keep Trump in power. And so he also had guns, 1,000 rounds of ammo, and 3% stickers with the white privilege card, and you can see that here. Also found with white privilege card, it bodily harm or injury if handled. Okay, so this is what you see right here in this photograph. And you've got people, actually 717 people are putting a heart to this. That's disturbing. So apparently, angered by Trump's election defeat, Rogers and Copeland began plotting attacks over multiple encrypted messaging apps in November of 2020. And probably before then, there were people that were on those chat groups and on those encrypted messages, sending messages back and forth, plotting to do homegrown terrorism. And I'm just saying this included because this right here is just the adding more fire to the fuel, so to speak. So that's when Rogers allegedly told Copeland that he would hit the enemy in the mouth by using Molotov cocktails and gasoline to attack targets associated with Democrats, including the governor's mansion and the Democratic headquarters building in Sacramento, according to investigators. And so by November the 25th, according to the indictment, the two were actively trying to recruit others to join them in this lead. So though one of the apps in late December 2020, Copeland told Rogers that he had contacted the anti-government militia group to get support for their movement. January on that 4th, according to Copeland's detention memo, Rogers told him, "We need help, though, and I don't know how to get more people involved." Copeland responded, "Proud Boys and 3%. And I emailed Proud Boys," investigators say, adding the agents discovered the URL, which is an internet history of Copeland's laptop that appeared to show that he had filled out the submitted form of the Proud Boys website on about December the 28th. And so 4 days after the Capitol attack, the January 10th criminal complaint against Rogers says that he told Copeland, "We can attack Twitter and the Democrats easy right now, burn their shit down." And so the next day, according to the indictment, Rogers told Copeland, "I want to blow up the Democrat building." And so this is what this guy was saying. So they then agreed on their target, the indictment alleges. And so, with Rogers suggesting they attack the Democratic headquarters in Sacramento first, Copeland responded, "Plan attack," according to investigator. And so, according to the indictment, Rogers also told Copeland to prepare to go to war on January 20th. So it wasn't over. So they considered going to war, which was Inauguration Day when President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, okay, probably that day that they were inaugurated. So that's when they wanted to stir up trouble. So that's why they had a lot of security there that day, because they already knew. So 4 days later, the FBI arrested Rogers and discovered the cache of guns and pipe bombs in his home, which you've seen in the photos, the still photos. And when Copeland learned that of Rogers' arrest, he immediately contacted the militia group in which they both belong. And so one of the militia group's leaders advised Copeland to switch to a new communication platform and delete all his communication with Rogers after the later arrest. And the indictment says, and so with the FBI agents seized Copeland's electronic devices January 17th, the indictment says Copeland's messages with Rogers were missing. And so Rogers and Copeland are both charged with conspiracy to destroy by fire or explosive a building used or affecting interstate commerce. Rogers is also charged with weapons violations, including 1 count of possession of an unregistered destructive devices and 3 counts of possession of machine guns. And Copeland is charged with destruction of records for deleting his messages with Rogers. So attorneys for the men could not be reached for comment Friday morning, but Rogers' attorney told San Francisco Chronicle in January that Rogers didn't pose a danger to the public and wasn't a 3%er member. And so, if convicted, the men face a maximum statutory sentence of 20 years imprisonment, a 3-year term of supervision release, okay, and a $250,000 fine for the conspiracy charge. So Rogers faces the additional maximum of 10 years in prison for the weapons charges, and Copeland faces 20 years imprisonment for destroying the evidence. And so that's what is going on as we speak. They're not the only ones to look at this card. So if you see that he presented this card, there's probably a lot of others that are walking around with this card. Look at the pipe bombs and the material that he had. And so this was displayed off on Twitter. And so these are what you call homegrown war and terrorism right here on American soil.